Inside the Barriers, brought to you by Bet Deluxe. Serious betting for serious punters.
Hello, yes, Bet Deluxe inside the Barriers, and the Valley is going to be rocking Friday night into the big super day of racing on Saturday, the Cox Plate. Miles Fitzner is with us. G'day, mate. How are you doing?
Hello, BM. Yeah, what a weekend of racing. Manikato under lights Friday night. Then the Cox Plate. We see the spring champion up there in Sydney. It just keeps continuing. The great racing. It's on, and we'll do our best to try and find a winner.
How'd you get through Saturday? Caulfield Cup, bit of a knockout result. But what about what Sydney put on?
Oh, Sydney put on an event, and I've got nothing against the Everest and the Caulfield Cup being on the same day. I think it's good for racing. We saw a couple of shock results, but we also saw some horses put their hand up. Horses like Asafura that just came out and demolished them. So interesting results for some big races. Hopefully they go more the way of the punters this weekend.
I think the good thing about Giga Kick and winning, the $15 million Everest, he's a gelding, so we can see him for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, we are.
Come back and win it next year.
Yeah, that's right. We are going to see him for the next 15 years or 10 years or so, 5 or so years. But he, I don't know whether or not he's going to go that far. I mean, you get in nicely at the weights. He's done it superbly. I mean, the story about the trainer being in the truck on the way to Sydney, and it was a fairy tale. The race was set up to suit, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they were flat out. You only had to sit off the speed. Nature Strip really lost no admirers. He was enormous for the amount of tempo that got put on, and you could see that with Eduardo falling right out the back. He still managed to box on nicely. And
he's coming to Melbourne, of course, for the Melbourne Cup week, Nature Strip.
Yeah, it'd be good to see the horse down here. So once again, we just see good horses going around every weekend, and it's no different this weekend with the horses we see in the Cox Plate. We've seen them all go head-to-head for a while, and now we finally get to see the big one. This is the race, and this is the one I look forward to the most out of any.
Yeah, look, it's my favourite race for a number of reasons. We're having a horse that won it twice, but being in the position of being able to call it 28 times and seeing horses like Might and Power and Mackay Diva and Sunline and Northerly, and then being there when Winks, just topped them all. And even rolling back to Kingston Town back in my time. But it is the race where legends are made.
Well, the Cox Plate, you've taken on my notes here, BM. This is your race. You called it that many times. There are some calls that are more famous than others. You also called your own horse. I mean, this is
got everything.
This is your race. They should rename it. Rename it the Bryan Martin Plate. That's what they need to call it.
I like the sound of it. Now, let's roll into Friday night, first of all, because this Manikato is going to be a beauty. Again, we've got Coolangatta, who took the Group 1, the $1 million race, off barrier 1, goes up only a kilo. Bella Nipotina swamped it late, but just couldn't get there. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, you couldn't get a better draw again for Coolangatta. And look, one thing I'm going to say off the top of this show we're doing is we're forecast rain and a lot of it. So they're telling me at the Bureau, not that I've got a direct line to anyone, but they're telling me at the Bureau that it's slowly diminishing. So you've got to do your form either way, that it goes traditional, like on pace, maybe a tad leaderish. But then if it does get wet, then the other horses are starting to come into it. Now, any form of rain or any ability to make ground probably takes away from a horse like Coolangatta that just needs to be up on the bunny, on the chewy, handlebars down and go. I'm probably looking away, the way they hit the line there in the 1,000 metres in the Moy, I'm probably looking away from her a little bit and probably would be leaning more towards a Bella Nipotina. But I think the Palele win out of the Scalacci over ingratiating there was superb. So I've got Palele on top in the Manikato. Bella Nipotina is right there, so I'm tipping Palele. But, geez, I can't let Bella Nipotina go around as well. They're going to be the two for mine, but, geez, I'm just hoping that this rain stays away, BM.
And, you've got the riders. You've got Jamie Carr on Coolangatta. You've got Craig Williams sitting right there in Bella Nipotina. He'll be stalking from gate 2, the stablemates 1 and 2. And where does J-Mac go in Palele? Gives them 3 or 4 length start. Can it make up that ground, depending on how the track races?
That's it. I think from the draw from 6 for Palele, I mean, you've got the best in the world on in James McDonald. And look at the jockeys we're talking about. J. Carr, James McDonald, and Craig Williams has just won the Everest. So with the superb ride, he's in good a form as any. From 6, I think Palele's versatile. I think can be right up outside. Even if it's one back, there'll be no panic from J back, like one back further from that. Coolangatta's only got one way. Bella Nipotina has to then swoop. So that's why I've got Palali in front of Bella Nipotina. I just think the draw, the variables that are going to pop up with the track, the jockey, the stable, and the valley, the last run, Palali for me, Bella Nipotina very close.
Okay, I'll stay with Coolangatta. I know there's a query about the 1200. When she was 2, she was handling 1200 metres. She's going to be a little fitter. I'd love to see her just get a rest behind something, but I just don't know how it's going to play out. But great race.
It's a superb race, and these races at night, they're on before the Cox Plate, they're super. The atmosphere, you can't get anything like it other than Moonee Valley. I'm going to be on track and hopefully cheering home a winner.
Good on you. Okay, we're going to get to the Cox Plate shortly, but I want to zip up there for the Spring Champion up at Randwick. Elliptical, flashing home late behind Golden Mile. Golden Mile stays at 1600 for the other feature race up there in Sydney. Is it set up now for Elliptical to go out to 2000?
Oh, look, you'd think so. Elliptical was enormous. I know there were big raps before that last race, and then the money came late as well. It's a big ownership in Elliptical too, of some of the footballers and the who's who are involved in Elliptical. Look, I'm a little bit of a query from gate 1 there as to where this horse is probably going to get to. And look, I know that we're requiring that this horse has to jump and probably dictate terms from the lead. And it can do that. But if it just maybe misses a kick a little bit, I'm sort of worried that whether or not you might end up 2 or 3 pairs back. Because there's going to be some horses that are probably not going to want it to be a slowly run stack and rack. Yeah. This is a really, really good race. You've got the Rogerson horse in Sharp and Smart, which rolled Machalate last start at Warwick Farm on a heavy deck. I'm a little bit of a query, probably jumping up 3 from 6. It's probably one that I thought, oh well, from gate 8, where does that get to? Does it get caught 3 deep at any point? I've actually landed on another one here, the Ryan and Alexia runner for Karen McAvoy in Williamsburg. And the reason being is that 3 from 6 on a heavy deck, I think it's probably the genuine wet tracker of the field in this race. It's a horse that I think probably, on my eye, the 2000 it's been screaming out for. 4 from 10, it's got sort of a pretty good sort of preparation base, which is what you want to see with these 3-year-old colts. You want them to have gone through one, then go through a trial phase, then go through another prep again. Sort of getting around that $5.50, $2 mark, even a little bit more than that. That's exactly where you want to be, I would have thought, with a race like this.
All righty, let's go to the big one. This is the Cox Plate, and we've got the horse who probably should have gone very close to winning, and Animo was the 3-year-old last year. It went to the steward's room, high drama around the race, and he's come back. Has he come back a length or 2 lengths better, do you think?
Oh, look, I mean, take this horse on at your own peril, really, now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know, look, early doors, I was probably happy to risk him, and then there was a little bit of a query when he had the elevated temperature, and then everyone went, oh, we're happy to risk him. I mean, how can you risk him now?
No.
Everything he's done has just been flawless.
Yeah, and he seemed to crab around the Caulfield a little. Once he balanced up, he hit the line hard, and it was quite arrogant the way he won. And you've got Alligator Blood drawn out in 12. You've got Zaki down in barrier number 1. You think Alligator Blood's just got to push forward straight out of the gates.
Yeah, it's a tale of 2 tapes with the barrier draw, isn't it? Because you've got Zaki's gone inside into 1, you've got Animo that's gone into 4, and then a lot of the dangers, Mr Brightside 11, Alligator Blood 12, and On Thunderstruck 10, which means all of those horses have now got to they've got to push and go straight across. Now, we know with Cox Plates, and you know better than anyone, especially calling them, you would have never been slow on the binoculars, BM. They were out running and they go. They're always a hot-tempoed 20-40.
And you've got to find your spot. Once you start going down the Dean Street side by the 1600, you've got to either be committed to be one off the fence or wherever you want to be. But don't be wide, because you then get to the 1200-metre turn. If you're off the track, that's where you stay.
Yeah.
And then the pressure, they hit the button again. And I've got a feeling that Zaki's going to hit the button and go up to Alligator Blood, probably at the school at the 600, and say, all right, boys, it's on.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that they'd let this be a walk. Now, we've seen with some of these lead-up races to this that they've stacked them all up. Now, the jockeys have got off and said, oh, there's no tempo. You won't have to worry about that here. Zaki, I think, will want the tempo. Zaki's in my numbers, but just from the draw, geez, like Animo last year, should not have won it. The protest should not have been
probably right.
It should not have been. And anyone that says otherwise is only talking through their pocket. I mean, that happens in racing all the time. But look, second last year, Animo, you know he'll run the trip. He's drawn perfectly. He's versatile. He can do it up front. If Zaki pressures him, he can handle it. If Zaki wants to take it up, he can sit off. These are the two that are going to go. They're going to jump on the bunny. Now, this is all with the premise that it's full-blown leader bias and we're not on a heavy 9 or 10. Then it changes. So those two, they can just keep pushing up. They'll keep an eye over their right shoulder. All these horses, Alligator Blood on Thunderstruck, they're going to have to keep pushing them wider or keep them wider. And if you're 3 deep in a high-pressure Cox Plate, you've got to nearly be a freak to win.
Exactly.
And I don't know whether or not there's freaks in here that can beat the two freaks in Animo and Zaki. So Animo on top, clearly.
Yep.
Zaki second pick. And then we've got a horse down here that you and I were talking about before we started this in El Bodegon. Damien Oliver aboard and Chris Waller. He's come over from overseas. This is a horse that I think they've just been keeping the powder dry for him for a while. He's going to be versatile in all conditions. Heavy, soft. He hasn't won on a good surface, but I'm pretty sure
He's not going to get that.
We're not going to get that.
And he's a pony.
He's a pony, and we're going to get him out of gate 8. So once again, he's still inside. I'm Thunder, Alligator Blood, and Mr. Brightside. So Ollie, he's the best in the world at going, I know you, your horse and where you want to be. Exactly. I know you, your horse and where you want to be. And I'll put my horse here to upset the apple cart for all of you. So quite clearly, I'm going to be Animo on top from Zaki and from El Bodegon. And that will be my punter's pick.
Okay, well, that's good. Now, what about Moanga? There's a big groundswell for this horse.
Yes, now he's definitely the next pick for me. And look, if Zach out the back let me pick 4 horses, I would have put Moanga in, but I couldn't. Moanga for mine is flying. I tipped him in this last year. I had a big futures ticket in the Cox Plate last year. He's one of my favourite horses. I can't let him go around at $34, especially if the rain comes. And look, he can handle it heavy. I don't think he's a genuine heavy tracker. He can handle it heavy, but he's just a horse that can do it from everywhere. And if he gets a gun run from 9, Naughty Nash gives him just a gun steer, he can feature in the finish. Absolutely no doubt about that. I've got it that we're not going to get too much rain. The inside horses will both jump. They'll go and put the pressure on out the front. They'll have the rest of them off the bridle. And then it's just going to be a genuine test of who's the fit enough horse. So if the rain comes, though, scrunch a sheet up, throw it out the window. El Bodegon, Moanga, they're probably the ones. Gold Trip, blinkers on, back to 2,000, can handle the wet. Really good record of horses coming back out of a race like the Caulfield Cup into the Cox Plate off a quick backup and with the blinkers going on. The stats are crazy. And look, it could be a Kieran Maher, Dave Eustace masterstroke, but I've got to repeat those numbers. But geez, Moanga and Gold Trip, don't rule them out at all. This is a stellar addition to the Cox Plate.
Yeah, it's a beauty. I'm with the best horse in the land at the moment, Animo, number 10. His form is faultless. I think Zaki can run right up to his best. And I've got Moanga in for third, so I'm 10-1-5. I love Greece. Greece is the best.
Don't get me started on this horse, Bryan. Don't get me started on this horse. So this is your best.
Yep.
This is my best. And we don't do this. There's no production meetings in here.
What's Kieran Maher's best?
Grace. Now, this is all pending no rain. I've followed this horse from the get-go. Went to the trials. Now, we're talking about Greece, which is race 4, number 12 at Moonee Valley. I watched these trials really, really closely. Knew when they got the horse. He's a full to Loving Gabby that Coolmore have. We knew how good Loving Gabby was. Went to the trials, and the trial numbers up there in Sydney were off the charts. And I mean the best numbers I'd seen in trials for even open grade horses for 2 years. Yeah. They're all over Twitter everywhere. They tried to get her into a slipper, so they whacked her into a Riesling, which was on a heavy deck. Didn't handle it. Horse then comes down south, went to come up, got a temperature, didn't have another go, waited again. I think they went to go to Echuca or somewhere up there. It was on a heavy deck. They've scratched her there. She's gone to Geelong. She's won down there. You have a look at the width of the chest of this horse. She is nothing short of a beast. I had a ticket for her in a Manicato. That's how much if she was racing in a Manicato, I'd be tipping her right now. If she was in the Manicato on Friday night, I'd be tipping her. She is my favourite horse in the land.
What you have for breakfast, dinner?
Look, yeah, I'll go and sleep in the stall with this horse, BM.
Wow.
If there's no rain, she's a freak. You mark my words, this horse is a freak.
I love it. Race 4, number 12. We all agree, Saturday.
That's it. The other one, just keep a little. You've got to keep an eye on Golden Mile up at Sydney. I think that what we've
Short
seen
odds.
from Golden Mile, short odds, but you could probably wrap that in your Bet Deluxe multis, of course.
Good on you, Miles, and well done. That's going to be a huge 48 hours.
Huge 48 hours. We've got a few more of these shows, and Cup week coming up. It's just the best time of year, BM. And we can't wait to see. I need you to do another edition of the Cox Plate. Get to 29. We need 29 Cox Plates, BM.
Good on you, Miles. Go on, deluxe yourself. Gamble responsibly.
Inside the Barriers. Brought to you by Bet Deluxe. Serious betting for serious punters.